Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the streets of Detroit, Belle Isle, for the fifth race of the PMRL Racing League season here for season 3. It is round number 5, as I mentioned. We are halfway into the season on the quite legendary streets of Detroit, it has to be said. Looking at the track right here before we dive into things, it is just under 4 kilometers in length. The current track temperature is actually in a medium, I would say. It's not cold, it's not hot either, so I'm expecting the Reds to actually hold on pretty nicely here, so looking forward to see what the tyre strategy is going to be. But anyway, going towards those conditions a little bit further, we're going more in depth. You can see the wind 26 kilometers per hour, which isn't actually all that soft. It's actually a pretty hard wind as well, so looking forward to see what I can do with the car's balance. It's a street course, of course, so it's going to be difficult to hold on to the car in some places with all the bumps involved as well, but 29-degree weather as well, so it's a beautiful day here in Detroit. And we're gonna dive straight into things for qualifying right here. We are joining minutes left, almost 13 minutes, as we have Will Lyon on the provisional pole at the moment with a 1:14.2, and he's also a championship leader, so currently the man to beat, and also his teammate Daniel Dinsdale on the second position, just over a tenth behind. Daniel not with the greatest of starts to the season, but quickly going through the schedule, which you can see right here. So tonight we have Detroit, which marks the halfway point in the season. Next week we have an off week, which I will be spending some good time away. Hopefully some of the drivers as well. A nice rest, and then getting back into the action at Silverstone the week after that on the 16th of March. Then 23rd we go to Autocross Speedway for the second Triple Crown round. Of course the first of those three was last week at Indy. Then Watkins Glen, Pocono, the final Triple Crown, and also the final oval race of the season, with Laguna Seca capping things off on the 13th of April. Now looking at the driver's standings, you can see Will Lyon leads it quite comfortably over David Saranza, with Jasper Orman in the third position. And within the top 5 there has been a little bit of movement, with Henry Bennett moving up into the 4th position and Hugo Olsen into 5th, with the team's points getting up on the screen as well now. You can see that Powerslide Motorsports gained a few positions in the team's points, gained 2 positions last week at Indy with a 1-2 finish, with Henry Bennett winning, Hugo also winning over Henry Bennett, sorry. So those two drivers scoring some good points for the team. SMS Racing still leads the teams, by the way, by quite a huge margin as well. So getting into qualifying here for the Detroit Grand Prix, the Vopsy Detroit Grand Prix, by the way. Of course, if you want to check out Vopsy iRacing page on Instagram, you can do so by following Vilder Wallen on Insta. Vopsy lowercase iRacing, sorry. Vilder does great iRacing paints, which I will bring up right here. There it is. It's not just an Indycar, also a few different cars like sports cars and GT cars. The slideshow will be running for just a few seconds here, but in the meantime, off screen, Daniel Dinsdale, teammate of Will Lyon, into the 1:13 for the first time tonight. So qualifying times dropping slowly but surely, and Daniel actually is 2.5 tenths clear of his teammate, so pretty solid lap there. Got Jasper Orman slotting into 3rd, with Andreas Eick and Matthew Levine running off the top 5. And Levine is actually very close to Connie Naslund in the Alliance car. For 59. 0.59 seconds off the pace, I should say. English is failing me again today, but oh well. Currently got 3 viewers in chat. Welcome everybody. As always, please let me know about audio levels, if everything's correct or not. I actually tested it a few weeks ago for, I think it was the season opener in Barber. It was all working fine, and then in the race itself it was all messed up, so it doesn't hurt to have a few extra ears, I guess, to confirm it's all good or not. So let's bring up the track map in the top right corner of the screen as well, just so you guys can pay attention to your favorite driver. Of course, all the car numbers are on the left in the timing tower, and on the track map you can actually follow your driver with the number on the dot. Of course, then Dinzo in the number 4 car going into turn 3, sorry now. Kicking up some dust on the exit. Also got Jasper Orman on that second straight. In the 2 car, just 2 examples. So tonight marks the first street course event of the season as well, and the only street course event of the season, I should add as well. The first 2 road courses at Barber and Nürburgring were won by Will Lyon. The first oval at Iowa was won by Alexis Newsom, and the second oval at Indy, of course, last week, Hugo Olsen. So 3 different winners in 4 races. Will Lyon come out on top again tonight, or will it be somebody else? As Orman hits the wall, that's going to be his lap over as he hits it again. But we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, the race going green in about 7 minutes now. So, really looking forward to this one, I have to say. I've never actually raced. Actually, as I say that's not right. I have raced here myself, but I've never really broadcasted a race here. So, first time for me personally tonight. It's not really a track that actually features on many IndyCar leagues, it has to be said too. It is a legendary circuit in the real world, but not many leagues picking it for their schedules, but PMRL luckily does. So let's pick up David Soranzo, the Frenchman, second in the points. Currently sits 10th in the qualifying running order. Of course, he wants to start a little bit further up the grid than P10. As we ride along on the left front suspension of David Soranzo, you can really see the bumps everywhere. It's really a handful on the sim as Soranzo taps the wall there. Might actually get away with it though on the run up to the line. Let's see if he will improve. Doesn't look like it, so he's going to try again. Gotta be careful with the wall on the outside there. There's a bump as well, which really unsettles the car. The guy wants to push or get loose on Hugo and slide into the wall. Turn 3, it's a 90-degree right-hander. Then another 90-degree right-hander here to follow that up. And this section of the track is actually new for a couple of years. They actually went straight on here and then rejoined on the back straight. As Soranzo is also following a car, might be a teammate, can't really tell, but it's for sure giving him a nice solid draft down the straight. The other car moved out of the way, doesn't look like it, so into the final part of the lap, a little bit of traffic for David, so, oh, actually that's not really the best of spots to get out of the way in, but Soranzo now through this section right here, which is oh so bumpy, especially on the exit right here, very tricky to get the power down. Now we have just a few more corners to go, the final 2, as David hits the wall on the curb as well. Slides off that curb, I should say, into the wall. And that's his lap done, but basically that's a tour of Belle Isle. Of course you have one flat out kink as well to cap off the lap. But I think tonight's going to be a perfect show of who is able to keep their heads cool, because this street course is so tricky. It's really difficult to stay patient and stay consistent because there's just so many bumps. It's almost like a street course version of Sebring. It's not quite as bad as Sebring, but still pretty bad, bumps wise. Of course, it's a completely different track to Sebring in almost every aspect apart from the bumps, which, well, are worse at Sebring, but similar, I guess. But especially in qualifying, you will see drivers struggle in the final 3.5 minutes or so. And English really is difficult for me tonight. Gonna try my best. Oh, not really sure what went on right there, but Schimberg getting in the way of Indycar, it seems. Couldn't really tell who it was. Gonna try to find out on the numbers. It's the 41. Taylor Mills. Getting held up there. There are still 3 minutes left, so these drivers should have another shot or two even. It's 1 minute 14 that comes to, well, 1 minute 14 let's say, just to make it a little bit easier. 2 minutes and 28 seconds is what you need when you cross the line, and I think these people will be just about safe on that one. Actually, as I say that, it might be a little bit more close than that. Yeah, it's not going to be close at all actually. Oops. Of course we came off Indy last week, I'm used to those kind of speeds now. Schimberg through the final two corners, going to start another lap. And this will probably be... Oh, actually goes into the pits. I was going to say this might be his last one. With the Reds not being optimal, let's say, for more than one lap in qualifying. Want to see what Sam Blackwood can do though. Of course, had a heartbreak at the season opener. Did a little bit better at Nürburgring a few weeks ago. I believe he finished top 5 there. On to the second straight. I won't call it quite the back straight because it's not the back straight. In fact, the main straight is not even an actual straight. It has a kink in there as well, and it's very short. So I guess we could consider second straight the main straight in a way. So we continue to follow Sam. Currently sits 12th on the board. And one key thing to mention as well, by the way, 17 cars at the moment in the session racing, or scheduled to race. And all of them within 2 seconds. On a circuit so tricky as Detroit, it's actually quite impressive to see that. Of course, PMRL is mainly road focused, but regardless of that, it's actually very impressive to see such a small lap time difference between all these drivers. And actually, if you pay closer attention to that leaderboard, the top 12 is within a second. So that's even more impressive. As Sam Blackwood crosses the line, slides up into P11, moves up a spot, as he tries again for a second lap, with about half a minute left on the clock. Into turn 3, the first of 2 straight 90-degree right-handers. Into turn 5 and then turn 6. Very easy to hit the wall on the inside there as you're trying to make the track as wide as possible. You saw right there with the onboard on Sam's car. It's very difficult to put the power down there too, a lot of bumps. If you thought that was bumpy, wait until this section right here. And it starts right about here. All the bumps on the apexes, on the exit, trying to get the power down. There's a car around as well on the inside. Then you're basically along the right with all the bumps here into this corner right here, which is actually a little bit cambered inwards to take a little bit more speed. But then the final 2 corners here. A little bit smoother, a little bit faster too. Very easy to hit the outside wall like we saw a number of drivers do. Clock is up. Sam Blackwood across the line. Doesn't improve, so he stays P11. And the 2 SMS cars are out on improvements, it does seem like. Currently Dinsdale with a provisional pole. We'll line on the back straight, so we'll follow Daniel first as he crosses the line in a few moments time. Everybody else except Alex Salmon and Seb Alexander finished up their qualifying efforts already. So through the final 2 corners, as Daniel Dinsdale hits the wall, so he will not improve for sure. As we now track Will Lyon, the championship leader, by 41 points. I believe it was, if I saw that correctly. It's well over 40 points anyway. And Will taps the outside wall but gets away with it, I think. Actually doesn't, because he pulls into the pits. So no improvement for Will. And that concludes qualifying for the Vopsy.com Detroit Grand Prix. And we'll just wait for iRacing to process all the qualifying results so we can bring those up. But before we do that, let's quickly have another look at the track itself. Of course, the streets of Belle Isle, the Detroit street circuit. And you can see just under 4 kilometers in length, 29 degree air temperature, 36 degree track temperature, which actually jumps all the way up to 43 degrees now for the race. So that will play a little bit of a part in tyre strategy. You might see a few drivers choosing to start the race on the primary blacks, then maybe go towards the reds towards the end of the race like we saw at Nürburgring. But the wind is actually quite high, 34 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure which that is, what that is in miles per hour, but it's probably along the lines of like 20 miles per hour. So safe to say the drivers are gonna basically feel the wind quite often in this race. But anyway, qualifying results are in. So it's Daniel Dinsdale on the pole for SMS Racing, 23 thousandths of a second clear of his teammate Will Lyon, who starts second, alongside him on the front row, of course. And those two teammates, both the only two cars in the 1 minute 13s. And the rest of the field is Jasper Orban and Andreas Eick on row 2, 3/10 away from the pole. Then half a second away is Matthew Levine, also for SMS Racing with David Saranto in 6th. Connie Naslund for Indy Alliance Racing starts 7th, with Shane Burke for Simtech Motorsports in 8th. Then we've got Taylor Mills, Sharon van der Sloot, Sam Blackwood, Alex Salmon, Mark Johnston, Alexis Newsom, who is returning again after a few weeks away, Alan Rizal, Sam Boyle, and Seb Alexander, and of course Vilda is a steward, so not actually racing. So that will be the qualifying results, and also the starting grid for tonight's race. Currently cars are out on the warm-up session, which is a 5-minute session to really work on the race car itself, make the final in-car adjustments to start the race with, and also practice pit entrance and exit. As this also is not really working anymore, so we'll just get rid of that and load this one back up. So before we, before we take the green flag, I want to run through the points again going into this race. So Will Lyon leads it by 41 points over David Saranto, who sits second, and actually holding on to that position very nicely. Didn't have the best of races last weekend, 2 weeks ago at the Nürburgring race, but still sits second. Jasper Orman moves up to the 3rd position, moves up 2 spots. And it's actually 3 points clear of his Powerslide Motorsports teammate. Of course, Jasper and Henry finished 1-2 last week at Indy 2. Hugo Olsen, sorry, not Jasper Orban, Hugo Olsen won the race, not Jasper. He sits in the 3rd position. Hugo sits in the 5th position, who won last week at Indy. So 4th and 5th for Powerslide. Once again, apologies about that. The 2 Swedes, it's actually a bit confusing sometimes. But Sam Blackwood shares the 5th spot with Hugo Olsen, both on 98 points. Andreas Eick 7th with 92 points, and then 1 point back as Matthew Levine, with the top 10 being rounded off by Daniel Dinsdale and Connie Naslund. So that is the points situation going into this race for the drivers. And we'll load up the team's points as well, which is led by SMS Racing by 38 points over Indy Alliance Racing. Those two have been at the top all season long pretty much. With Powerslide Motorsports moving up 2 spots after last week's 1-2 by Hugo Olsen and Henry Bennett. So they slot into 3rd, then NSH Racing and Taylor Mills Racing drop a position to 4th and 5th in the standings. Then the top 10 is rounded off by Wyfer and Indy Alliance Racing 2, Simtech, Talent, and then 89 Motorsports as well. So 15 seconds left in warm-up, and just as I was going to say that Dinsdale and Blackwood have the same lap times, Dinsdale goes quicker by about a tenth and a half to a 1 minute 16.3. And as I said, this will give the first indication on race pace as well, because this is basically the race setup that's being used. And Sam is right up there, of course, starting in the midfield, but if his race pace is anything to go by in the warm-up session, he should have a pretty solid run tonight. But first, let's go through the qualifying results one more time before we take the green flag. So of course, Daniel Dinsdale on that pole position, 33 thousandths of a second clear of his teammate Will Lyon. Then Jasper Owen and Andreas Eich make up row 2 with Matthew Levine. Also for SMS Racing, making it 3 SMS cars in the top 5. Then David Sorrento on the outside for row 3. Then we've got Connie Nassau and Shane Burke on row 4. Row 5 is Taylor Mills and Shema van der Sloot, who had an impressive run at Nürburgring, couldn't quite pull it off after last lap contact. But Sam Blackwood, as I mentioned, starts in the midfield alongside Alex Salmon, Mark Johnson and Alexis Newsom on row 7, Alan Rosell and Sam Moyle on row 8, with Seb Alexander, the final car that's going to take the green flag tonight, in the 17th position. So going green in a few moments. We're lining up on the back straight, I believe, or in the final part of the lap at least. So it's a short pace lap, 33-degree track temperature, 5 p.m. sim time. So that track temperature will be going down, as I talked about so many times last week too. And the wind isn't going down by much. It's still about around 20 kilometers per hour, going up to 24 sometimes, maybe even higher. So here we go for the Vopsy.com Detroit Grand Prix. It is Daniel Dinsdale and Will Lyon on the front row, and
green flag
from the Andreas Eich is going side by side with Matthew Levine as he goes really deep on the brakes there, actually overshoots the corner, has to turn around, and he's going to lose a chunk of time as we have the first caution out on the track as well. So everybody's position is now frozen, and Sam Blackwood is allowed through by iRacing. So at the time when the caution came out, he was ahead of Mark Johnston, who we are following right now, but the top 4 unchanged. Daniel Dinsdale still leads from Will Lyon, Jasper Orman and Andreas Eich. Then Shane Burke is up 3 positions into 5th. Sorrento and Naslund both stayed in 6th and 7th as well. Then it's all movers. And of course the biggest loser in the race at the moment, after going straight on, is Matthew Levine. Some slight front wing damage, but should be okay once he has that repaired. Getting word that the caution is for Taylor Mills, who has crashed. Let's have a look. It's already happened right here, so let's see if we can find what happened. To Taylor. Here we go, on board with Taylor Mills. Through turn 1. And actually, I think, who was that? Is that Jasper Orman or is that Connie Nassau? It might have been Connie. But either way, nowhere to go for Taylor. I want to rewind this and go in slow-mo, because I couldn't really tell who that car was. It has a 6 in the name. What's the Lexus in 6 in the number, I should say? Is it a Lexus Nielsen? Alright, let's have a closer look right here. So gonna go in slow motion. Taylor Mills going into turn 1. There's a slow car on the inside, which is a Lexus Newsom, I think. It's really difficult to tell with the number. 68. Who is number 68? Ah, it's Connie Nassen. There you go. So Connie Nassen. So everybody decides to stay out, which actually surprises me, because I would have expected a few cars in the back to top off on fuel to maybe go a little bit longer. Of course, if you save more fuel or even add fuel, you have a shorter stop time towards the end of the race for the final stint. Or maybe the pitch wasn't open yet. I don't think it was actually, so know what I said. Matthew is for sure gonna have to pit though, because he's got front wing damage, and he's gonna pull it into the pits very slowly and cautiously, but into the pits Matthew goes. Gonna get rid of the blacks. I do believe that he actually has complied with the tire regulations as well. Of course, remember that you have to use both the reds and the blacks in the race. So if he wanted, he could go to the reds all race. And I think that might be what he's doing. So Matthew going to the reds. And he will be good on the tire rules now. So basically a free choice of tire for Matthew Levine for the rest of the race. As I do believe we are getting ready to go back to racing here in just a little bit. Pace car lights are out, so we are going to go green this lap. Of course, road course caution is a little bit quicker than the ovals. Alright, so going green this time by. Currently biggest mover in the race, up 4 spots, is Alex Salmon, with kind of an irrelevant fact as well at the moment, but the fastest lap in the race at the moment is in the hands of Seb Alexander with a 2:35.9. Of course, that's all under caution, but still, has the fastest lap of the race at the moment. So Daniel Dinsdale gonna drop behind the pace car just a little bit, gonna try to weave and get some heat into the tires. Don't think that actually works on iRacing, but maybe Daniel knows something that I don't know. Alright, so here we go, lap 3. Starting lap 4, we're gonna get back to green flag racing. From Detroit is Daniel Dinsdale from Will Lyon and Jasper Orman in the top 3.
Green.
Daniel gets us back going again into turn 1, and everybody behind is actually trying to make up ground. So we're going too wide into turn 1, everybody wisely backing out and going single file through there. Is that something you want to do on the restarts? As we have a spinner in the background, which I believe is Seb Alexander, who has gone around. Yes, it is. Losing time. But Daniel Dinsdale on the primary tyres, holding on to the lead for now. Will Lyon on the reds right behind though, his teammate. Gonna try to get by as soon as possible, now that the reds are still in good shape. As we look from the back of Daniel Dinsdale. Top 3 slowly driving away from the rest of the field though. So going through turn 1 again, lap 5. Will Lyon getting really close to Daniel Dinsdale right here. Might even line him up for a pass here. Into turn 3. Will gonna have a look to the inside. Daniel defends that inside, covers it up. Gonna have to go the long way around and actually pulls it off with the grip on the reds. Moves into the race lead, Will Lyon. Great move there, late on the brakes. Of course his teammate Daniel was offline, had to brake earlier on the blacks as well. So move Will Lyon into the race lead with Jesper Orman following behind as well. He's also on the reds, so look for him to close up to Dinsdale too and try to get by in. As Alex gets really close to Sheriff van der Sloot just in front. Bit of oversteer there for Alex. Catches the car though. So a number of drivers in qualifying and practice as well get some oversteer right there in that corner and actually loop the car around too. So not something you want to do too much because the tires also have temperature and wear involved in the race on the long runs, which will make the car slightly more unpredictable as the stint goes on. As Connie gets a very nice run through turn 2. Gonna pick up the draft of David Saran, so gonna have a look to the inside, but nothing much more than that. Not much more than that, I should say, nothing much. That's great English. Wow. So Will Lyon driving away from Daniel Dinsdale. We got up to 0.8 of a second now, but Jesper Orman also losing quite a bit of lap time over that last lap. The gap is now up to 2.8 seconds. So not able to match the race pace of the SMS drivers at the moment. As Sam tries to show his nose into to the inside of Alex Salmon there, but has to stick behind Sam on the reds, and Alex I believe also on the blacks. Yes he is. Excuse me if you heard that, but the blacks should come into a nice window after about halfway into the fuel stint. Of course the reds are the softer compound, they should be faster, but they will also wear quicker, the reds do. So the primaries take a few laps to really get into the right operating window, as Alex gets really close to Sharon van der Sloot. Onto the back straight away. Not many moves happening at the moment, so whilst we have a little bit of time, I do believe, let's have a quick look at what happened to Sam Alexander through turn 2. Gets really wide, actually slows down and loses it right there on the bump on the inside, was way off the racing line as well. And I don't see any damage, so we'll be able to continue without any of that. Actually, as I said, it just brushes the wall with the front wing there, but otherwise okay. Of course, want to thank the sponsors for the race and for the league as well. For, of course, Vopsi iRacing Paints. Vopsi Lowcase iRacing is the Instagram handle for Vilde. You can check that Instagram page out. Of course, Vilde does the iRacing liveries for a number of drivers in the league here, but also in other series and official series too. And, I will just bring up the slideshow for a few seconds, but you can check Vilde out on Insta, on Vopsi Lowcase iRacing as I mentioned on Instagram, and also Major's Garage. You can use the referral link on setup purchases on the Major's Garage website. As the SMS drivers at the front, Will Lyon and Daniel Dinsdale pulling away about 4 seconds now to Jasper Orman in the third position, who isn't driving away but also not losing too much time to Andreas Eich. So I think these three cars running very closely together, very similar race pace, at least for the moment. As I say, huge line of cars just in the background too. There's Connie Naslund and David Saranzo battling for position just in front here too. As Saranzo holds on to P6 for now, as Connie has a look down the inside but not able to do anything there, and actually Shimmer van der Sloot getting very close to making up a position there too. So this group of cars packed up together. I look for somebody to get impatient at some point to try and get by into the braking zone, as Alex Selman on the push to pass goes down the inside of Shimmer van der Sloot, moves up into P8, and Shimmer van der Sloot has gone straight on, actually looped around with some slight front wing damage. Gonna wait for everybody to pass and turn the car around. Actually gets really close there to Alexis Newsom, who drives by. Let's see what happened between these two. So that is Sharon on the outside and Alex on the inside. So Sharon actually turns into the corner normally, it seems, but actually hits a bump right there in the middle of the corner, which unsettles the car. And I believe that is Sam Blackwood, right? Oh, actually gets clipped from the back, but might just be okay without damage. If there is damage, it's very minimal, but still. There is a car with damage though, which I'm trying to figure out who it is. Is that Mark Johnson? Yes, it is Mark Johnson, without a front wing and also rear wing damage. And Sherry continuing on with that wing damage. But Will Lyon out in front leads by a second and a half over his teammates for SMS Racing, and Daniel hasn't had the best starts of any seasons he's had probably, so he's looking for a good result today at Detroit. Of course, had a solid race at Iowa before contact happened there too. The Nürburgring was also quite solid for about a corner or two when he had contact with somebody. I think it was David Saranzo actually in Nürburgring. It's really impressing me how these two are able to drive away from the entire field. The gap is almost up to 7 seconds from Dinsdale to Orman, who is still trying to hold on to that position, with Andreas Eich actually closing in a little bit more now. The gap has been quite stable, but Andreas has been gaining a tenth or two here and there over the last 2-3 laps. Not really sure what the pit windows exactly are fuel-wise, because as I mentioned at the start, I've never really raced here before myself, and I've also never broadcasted a race here before, so fuel number is a little bit unknown to me, so we'll find out in, I would say, 10 laps or so what the fuel number is. I don't think it's too far away from real life on iRacing, so probably looking about 20 laps, maybe a little bit more on the fuel, but that's just a guess at this point. As Shema van der Sloot has gone into the pits, and he will try to get his damage repaired. Gonna move from the blacks to perhaps the reds, like Levine did. And yes, he does. So Van der Sloot goes to the reds too, which seems to be telling me, at least, that the reds are the faster compound over the majority of a fuel stint, I should say. Of course, in the final few laps, the blacks will always be better, pretty much. But the track temperatures not being melting hot certainly helps, as it's only 33 degrees. Of course, normally Indycar leagues run at 40, even 50 degree track temperatures. As Andreas Eich is the first of the leaders to come into the pits for a scheduled pit stop. So he decides it's been enough following Jasper Orman. Gonna try to do an undercut on him. As Andreas moves into his pit stop from the blacks to, let's find out in a second, to the reds as well. So everybody going for the reds on the second stint. And 12 laps is a little bit early on the window. Even though I don't know the fuel numbers, I do know that 12 laps is quite early. But Andreas off on the way, gotta be careful on the cold tyres though. Of course the reds take a little bit longer to heat up, they have a higher operating temperature, so it takes a little bit longer to get up there. Of course the primaries is the harder compound with a lower operating temperature. You get them up to the temperature needed a little bit quicker. But as I mentioned, Andreas on the reds, gonna take a little while, probably a lap or two, to really get the heat in those. So Andreas is gonna struggle out of the pits, but as everybody else is gonna pit later on, Andreas' tyres will be a little bit hotter and should be able to make up some time again on them and maybe pass into turn 3 on the brakes, or of course into this corner just before here, down the back straight. But Alex Salmon and Matthew Levine both in as well. Matthew gonna get rid of the reds, with Alex getting rid of the blacks. So reds it is for Alex. Matthew gonna go to the reds again, it seems. So 2 stints straight for Matthew on the reds. And he's done 12 laps on these, I think. So very early on the window. But I think they're just trying to get to the end from here on the fuel anyway, so should be all good, I guess. The reason I say I guess, and should in the same sentence, is right as I say that I'm actually starting to question myself, because like I said, I don't have much experience on Detroit, so trying to go off real life as much as possible here, because that's all I have. Oh, not literally, because I don't race in the cars in real life, but you get what I'm saying. So Alexis Newsom now up into the top 10. Of course, won at Iowa 2 weeks ago. Not 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. For Indy Alliance Racing. Not really a road course expert, let's say. She's not bad at them at all though. Just quite a lot strong on the ovals, that's really more her specialty. Will and Daniel still pulling away from the field. 11 seconds now between Dinsdale and Orman. As we look out the back of Will Lyons' car, you can really see the suspension working around this place, by the way. I already talked about the bumps a few times, but especially here, right? You can see it right there. Look at the suspension go. These cars are really taking a big beating here around this place. Of course, in real life it used to be a double header. It's gone back to a single event this year, but 2 races around this place are brutal, not just for the car, but also the drivers. And not so much in the sim, because you can play with the force feedback, but in real life, the let's say the bottom half of the body doesn't feel too great after a race. As Andreas Eich rejoins, Jim Burke rejoins behind Andreas Eich. Andreas gets in front. But that's not really who he's racing though. At the moment, Jasper and David still scheduled to rejoin in front of Andreas when they pit. At least on my timing screen.
The yellow flag is out.
Another caution out on the track. Not sure what it's for. It might be Alex Salmon again. Nope. Not sure what the yellow is for. We'll have to wait for a word by the admins, maybe. Connie Wilson has had it. Maybe that's it. Ah, that might be the yellow. But that popped up on my timing screens after the yellow came out, so that's a bit strange. And it is for Connie Naslund, who has hit the wall somewhere, it seems. Maybe we can see it right here. Ah, actually locks the inside tire into... lost the corner numbers here, sorry, but into that left-hander right there. Slides right into the wall. Let's have a slow-mo look from Sam Blackwood on board. As I said, Connie locks the inside front tire and boom, slides right into the wall. And Sam able to avoid that, but Connie with quite significant suspension damage, gonna bring out the second caution of the day. And this almost guarantees everybody a pit stop. 17 laps into this thing, which is gonna reset us again on the fuel numbers because I still don't know them. Maybe somebody in chat can help me out. We have 6 viewers. I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 experienced IndyCar road course drivers in chat who can give me a fuel number estimate on the road courses. For Detroit here, of course. But that lead that the SMS drivers had of about 12 seconds has now evaporated into almost nothing. And in all of that, by the way, Sam Boyle was the biggest mover, up 10 spots in this race. Started 16th, now into 6th. So, solid first stint for Sam. The 2 Sams, I have to say, because Sam Blackwood is also up into 5th. So, great job by both of them. Then Alexis Newsom also up into 8th. So, number of drivers really getting a lucky break with that yellow. And as I mentioned, I'm expecting a number of those people to pit. This time by Will Lyon, Daniel Dinsdale, Jasper Orman, David Sorensen, Sam Blackwood, Sam Boyle, Anna Rizzo, Alexis Newsom, all cars that pull into the pits. And add to that list Mark Johnston and Connie Naslund too, who is getting back out on track again and just beats the pace car out to stay on the lead lap. So actually gets really lucky with that yellow too. But Daniel going to the reds, Jasper going back to the reds too. Will has now gone to the blacks, I think. Yes, he has. And so I have Sam Blackwood and Alexis Newsom. Alright, so mixed strategies for a number of drivers. Of course, the majority of them started on the blacks and now going to the reds. Track temperature is down a degree, not much difference, but it is a degree. So pace car lights are out. As I said, quite a few minutes less of cautions on the road courses and the street courses, of course, like Detroit. The oval cautions take about 5 to 10 minutes off them, but the road course is only 5 or so. So with all the strategies playing out, Andreas Eich, who pitted a few laps ago, as I bring up my timer screen to confirm that correct pit lap, lap 12 it was, so 6 laps ago, he will be leading the race, and at least fuel-wise still has the same amount of stops left as everybody else. So Will Lyon and Daniel Dinsdale really not getting a great break with the yellow here. So they will have to make up some ground on the restart here, but into the final few corners on the track, final 2 corners here, Porsche pace car gonna pull into the pits with Andreas Eich leading us back to the green flag. As here we go, pace car is off, we're back on the way.
Green, green, green.
From Detroit, and Andreas gets a great jump into turn 1, already has a half a second lead into turn 2 now here. Onto the second straight again, going into turn 3. Shane Britt going defensive all the way up to the concrete wall, trying to defend that position from Alex Salmon, who outbrakes him. On the outside, the 2 make contact, and Shane forces his way, well, not really forces his way through, I should have said, but basically forces Alex to back out there and drops back to the 4th position, and Mathieu Levine is now up into the 3rd position, so elbows out on the restart by Shane. As we have a car going straight on, that's Seb Alexander again having an issue, and I'm trying to pick him up on my timer screen, but he's dropping down the order so fast. And he already spun on the exit of turn 2 a few, actually it was at the green flag, I think it was, at the start of the race. But Will Lyon up into 7th with Daniel Dinsdale into 6th now, so the 2 getting 2 spots from the restart. As we are now 20 laps into this thing, approaching halfway, about 8 laps away at this point. Just over 1/3 of the way in. As Mathieu Levine is going to have a look to the outside, goes later on the brakes, and Shane parks the car on the apex right there beautifully, so holds on to P2, and with all these battles going on, Andreas Eich able to pull away a little bit. Gap up to 1.2 seconds now. As Jasper Orman still struggling, it seems, on race pace. Qualified in P3, but not really able to hold on to that position race pace wise, as he is falling back from Will Lyon, and David are also gaining quite a bit of lap time on him. Battle for the 8th position this is. To the front straight again. David getting the apex a lot nicer than Jasper Orman did. Jasper going very wide in the final corner, but doesn't seem to be costing him too much time though. Sam Blackwood is right in the mix as well now. Sam on the blacks. Pitted under the last yellow, I believe. And yes, he did lap 17. Like the majority of the field has done. Cars are the closest battle on track at the moment, so we'll just keep an eye on these people. So, of course, with this being the halfway point in the season, of course this is round 5 out of 10 in the season, halfway. Next week we have an off week. Of course, a number of drivers want to get a good result in, so it wouldn't surprise me to see a few people go aggressive on the strategy towards the end. Maybe try something on the reds all the way from here. Of course, if they've already used the blacks before in the race, at the start for example, but wouldn't really surprise me to see a little bit more aggression than maybe usual, and of course especially towards the end of this race. But there's people like Daniel Dinsdale, who is probably the best example of those people who need to make up some points in the standings if they want to have any chance of finishing in the top 3 in the points, which we all know Daniel is able to do. Of course, he's done it last season. It's actually pretty close to it, but as I mentioned a few times, hasn't had the best of starts to the season yet. So looking for him to turn that around. And at the moment doing a solid job being in front of his teammate and championship leader Will Lyon. With Shane Burke, who drove his first race in the PMRL at Nürburgring, along the rest of his teammates. Holding on to the second position really nicely, but as I say that, Matthew Levine right behind on the push to pass on the outside line, gonna try to do it again like he did a few laps ago, but not able to try anything there. He's simply just not close enough to try anything on the brakes. Of course, if he tries to get alongside on the outside, he will get shoved out wide like we saw at the restart. But Andreas Eich pulling away to 1.76 seconds, and top 3 all on the reds. And I just went on board there with Burke to confirm that, but make that the top 6, 7, 8, the top 8 all on reds. Then Sam Blackwood is the first on the blacks. Sam Blackswood. Alright, so here we go. It is a 5-car train and a 5-car battle for P2. As we're getting closer and closer to halfway. Daniel getting a solid run on Sheriff on the slope. Maybe gonna send it in deep. Gonna have a look, but not much more, as Alex locks a wheel into turn 3. Turn 4 now. And right here on the right is where the old circuit went for Detroit. Of course, now turn 3 and 4 was actually added later on. I think it was quite recently, 2012, 13 maybe. Was when that section was added. Of course, as I mentioned, they went right a little bit earlier than they do now for turn 3. As Shane Burke is really starting to struggle now, getting a little bit more pressure from Mathieu Levine, and he seems to be getting a little bit impatient at this stage, which wouldn't really surprise me to see him send it in deep there into turn 3. Of course, Shane forced Matthew out wide on the restart. Wouldn't surprise me one bit to see Matthew give him the same back. Again, just not close enough. Matthew is. Gets a solid run out of turn 2 every lap, but it's just not enough to get alongside into turn 3. So Shane holding on really well to that position. The gap now up to 2.2 to Andreas Eich. And Jasper Orban continues to fall through the field down into 8th now. 5 seconds behind the wheel line. As David Saranzo is now in the mix too. Trying to get by Jasper Orban here. But these two have been nose to tail for a few laps already. With Sam Blackwood closing into that battle slowly but surely too. Going on apart from the battle for P2. Just on the back straight here, going on to the back straight. Matthew losing some time there. Was looking at the timing screens for just a second. Sorry about that, but Matthew drops to 1.2 back from Shane Burke. So Shane getting a little bit of breathing space at the moment. Of course, Shane was under some pressure for the last few laps, so they should release some of that for just a little bit. But Matthew does seem to be a little bit quicker at this stage in the race. Overall, I read to say that Matthew goes really wide in turn 1. Gonna get backed up here as Alex Selma gets a great run off of turn 2. already alongside before the braking zone, and actually moves in front before the braking zone as well. Matthew gonna come back on the inside though, goes very late on the brakes, bounces off the curb, gonna lose another position maybe to Sheriff on the slows. Yeah, just holds on to that position. As Daniel Dinsdale is right there too, as well as Will Lyons, so the 3 SMS cars all bunched up together in this battle for P4. As Sheriff on the slow now on the push to pass to the outside line for turn 7. But tries to make it around the outside as there's contact and Sharon goes into the wall. And he was forced in there by Matthew Levine, so definitely elbows out for a number of the drivers here. Of course, we saw it broke already at the restart, but also Matthew Levine now. Shane's teammate Sherwin. So third caution is out on the track, and I don't think Sherwin is going to be too happy about that one. Alright, let's have a look. And see what happened here. So of course Sherwin on the outside here trying to make the pass on Matthew. Sherwin is on the push to pass, remember, so he will have the racing line too and a little bit more speed, so goes into the corner. Matthew outbrakes him, and then as we go on board here with him, Matthew makes the apex and then has the right to the corner basically, so squeezes him out, but of course there's a concrete wall right there, so not much that Sherwin can really do in that situation. It's difficult to really call this one, to be fair, so thankfully we have admins to do that, but I don't think from the cockpit Sharon is going to be happy any bit with Matthew right there. But as I mentioned, third caution, just over halfway in. So despite all the incidents, we still have 17 cars running and all of them on the lead lap. Of course, Taylor Mills had an incident too, where the suspension was almost completely destroyed, but somehow that car is still running. Even though it's at the tail of the field, it is still running, which is the most important thing. And as I say that, I want to go on board here in the cockpit. See if the steering's all good or not. Let's have a look. It looks straight to me, so I think Taylor got away with it. Oh! Oh. Okay. Okay. I'm not really sure what to make of this one. Anyways, we'll bring up a replay from that in just a second. Most of the front runners who pitted earlier in the race gonna make use of this opportunity to come back into the pits and change tires. So Daniel Dinsdale into the box, gonna go to another set of the reds, and I think everybody else will do the same, apart from Jesper Orman, of course. He goes to the blacks. Tight race of the pits between Mark Johnson and David Soranzo, but Soranzo gets the position. Alright, let's have a look and see what happened here. There's 8 cars.
Hang on, we're not going green. Not going green.
As we have a nice unexpected guest in the commentary booth. I apologize about that. But seems like Alexis Newsom slowed on the track. I'm trying to figure out why though. Maybe somebody else in front of her stopped? It looks very strange. It's Alexis Newsom herself that stops. I don't know why. Just stops right there on the track, and of course everybody behind has nowhere to go. And a number of cars getting damaged, so the green flag being delayed too. For reference, by the way, Sam Moyle, Seb Alexander, Alexis Newsom herself, Sam Moyle, Taylor Mills, and Seb Alexander again involved. Let's see what happens to Seb again then. It's a bit strange. So it's the same incident, but it just got reported twice by SDK, okay? So yeah, of course, one more time you can see everybody stop on track, and I think Seb actually had enough time to react there, but wasn't paying attention, I think. But a few cars getting damaged, most of them just front wing damage though, so it should be all good for them. So one more lap of caution it seems, before we go back to green flag racing with 24 laps to go at the line, 25 at this point. And Shane Burke now leads from Alex Salmon, Sam Blackwood all the way up into third, and actually biggest mover Alex Salmon up 10. Colin Nathan up 3, then we have Andreas Eich who is down a spot, but in the top 5. We've got Blackwood and Nasser on the blacks. And both of them actually have 9 pushes of push to pass left, with Salmon 6 left and Burke 7 laps left, sorry. So a slight advantage for Blackwood and Nasser in that regard, but they are on the slower compound. And the top 4 all pitted around lap 15. Burke pitted at the end of lap 15. Salmon pitted at the end of lap 13, 17 for Blackwood and 16 for Naslund. So they're all on a similar strategy. Of course we are now on lap 31. That's correct. So a few more laps in the tank for the top 4, but they will have to pit pretty soon. And Blackwood and Naslund will be the first of those people to come into the pits. But anyway, lights are out on the pace car. Unless we get an extended caution again, we are going to go back to green flag racing with 24 laps to go from the streets of Belle Isle. Already been racing for about an hour and a half at this point. An hour and 20 minutes. Anyway, pace car is off. Shane Burke, Alex Salmon and Sam Blackwood the top 3. Shane's going to
Green,
lead us
green,
back to the
green.
green flag, and we are back underway with 24 laps to go. Oh, as we have a car in the wall, that was Alex Salmon brushing the wall. Actually, I say brushing, might be a pretty big hit there. As we have a number of drivers on the push to pass, and there's so many battles for position going on. That is Daniel Dinsdale making a move on Matthew Levine as we have a car around, and that is Matthew Levine. And again, another SMS Racing driver having issues, but everybody else getting through clean, it seems. So we go back towards the front. It is Salmon on the push to pass, trying to figure out if Alex got damage. The wheels all look straight, so I think Alex is okay. As Alex, who gets really close to the wall again. Just a small touch, a little kiss, but that now leaves Shane Burke in the lead by 1.6 seconds almost. So in just one single lap, Shane's already almost got 2 seconds on the rest of the field, and Alex also got about a second on Sam Blackwood, that is. Oh, as we have David Sorrento and Jasper Orman battling for position. That's Mark Johnson and David Sorrento. Sorry, as Mark gets a very nice run through turn 2. On the push to pass to the outside line for turn 3. Gotta have to be really late on the brakes, and he does so. Gets up in the P8. David didn't fight it too hard, but certainly didn't make it easy. As Mark Johnson already on the back of Jasper Orman, and Jasper, we know from, doesn't have the best of long run pace, so look for Mark to try and get by as soon as possible. Maybe he will use another push to pass right here. Doesn't seem like he is doing it right here, so maybe into turn 3 again next lap. But oh, Mark gets so late on the brakes. There's just so much more grip on the reds too, as he closes right up to the back of Jasper. Final corners for Mark Johnston. Jasper brushing the wall on the exit there. Gonna be under pressure here through turns 1 and 2 into 3. Mark doesn't use any push to pass. Gonna just do it on the drafts, it seems. Gonna have a look to the inside. Goes really late on the brakes. Later on the brakes than Jasper Orman, but still not able to get a position and a move done. But certainly showing himself in the mirrors. Onto the back straight away again. And not a good run at all for Mark here. It's actually a tenth or two slower on the exit there than Jasper Orman in front. So this is not going to be so easy as I thought it would be for Mark Johnston. In the meantime though, Shane Burke with the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 15.19. Putting in some very nice laps at the moment. 3.6 seconds clear of Alex Salmon with 21 laps to go at the line. Let's see if we can spot Alex across the bump here. There it is, just in the background. The entire field storms through turn 2. But it's almost half the back straight that Burke has over Salmon, so great job by Shane to do such a good job on the restart. Will Lyon though still struggling in 10th place even. Behind his main championship rival David Sorrento, and of course, as I said, these two are championship rivals. So I don't think David is going to make this one very easy on Will. There's not many points David could gain tonight, but any bit helps, of course, as Mark once again gets really close to Jasper. But here in this twisty bit, there's just nowhere to really pass unless the car in front of you makes a mistake and you can drive by. But it's not so easy as that. most of the time anyway. Oh, as Mark clips the wall, not going to be great for his momentum. And also not for the car itself, of course. Maybe taking a little bit of damage. And not gaining any time here on the straight, so it seems like Jasper will be able to hold on as under braking. Mark still is the quicker driver, right as I say that. Mark dives it down the inside for turn 4. Not really a place you normally try and pass a car, but he makes it work into P6 now. I was gonna say P7, but Alex Salmon just pitted whilst we were looking at that battle for position. So great move by Mark. Let's get a replay from this. And boom! Goes right down the inside there. And Jasper luckily saw him too, left him the space, and lives to fight another day, I guess. But that was great. As now Mark has got about 3 seconds to Andreas Eich in front, so a bit of clean air for Mark to push in. As Andreas Eich goes into turn 3, also losing touch with Daniel Dinsdale just in front too. The difference between those two is about 2 seconds too. Last lap time for Mark Johnson, 1 minute 16.98. It's about 1.2 seconds off the leader's pace. But of course that was also a little bit of traffic, getting by Mark Johnson there in turn 4, which certainly wasn't ideal for lap time. Jasper Orman is now battling with David Sorrento, who goes around the outside of turn 3 now. So, as I mentioned, Jasper's struggling for races, but David with a solid move around the outside there. Didn't really catch that full move there, as I was looking at the timing screen trying to catch a battle, which, funnily enough, I missed. Alright, here we go. So Jasper goes defensive to the inside, and David, simply with the racing line, more grip, drives it around the outside without any issues, it seems, just drives it by, like Jasper's almost not even there. So great move by David, as we have Shane Burke in the pits. Here he is, for Simtech Motorsports. Gets rid of the reds, goes back to them for the final 17 laps. And Shane might be in contention for the race win once all the strategies play out. Oh, not if he does that. Gets away with it though, almost lost the rear end out of the pits on cold tires, on the bump. Straight on the push to pass, trying to make up that lost ground here on the straight. But that was a little bit too close for comfort, especially when you're leading the race by 5 seconds going into the pits. Gotta be careful on the cold tires though, get down to the temperature and then start working from there. So more cars pulling into the pits now. Connie Nassen is the next one. And he was P3 going in. Let's see where Connie is going to rejoin. Currently tracking P15. Goes back to the Reds as well for the final 16 lap sprint. So this now leaves Sam Blackwood in the race lead. Of course, Sam still has to pit for a final time. Last pitted at the end of lap 17. So already has 19 laps or so on these tyres and the fuel. Of course, there has been a few yellows. There have been a few yellows in between, but making these tyres last for so long is quite impressive. Look for him to go back to the Reds for the final stint as well.
Caution, yellow
and
flag.
just as I say that, we have another caution on the track. And that is for Adam Brazil, who's had an off here on the back straight. And did the same thing like somebody else did. I can't remember who it was, but simply lost the rear end on the curbs. And boom, went around into the wall. And it might be Sheriff van der Sloot who did that earlier in the race. Or one of the Simtech cars, for sure it was. This might be a little bit too close for comfort for Sam Blackwood though. He's already coasting the 6th gear, trying to make it around. And if Sam has enough fuel, he might come out in front and lead the race. So this is very interesting. Let's see where Sam will rejoin when everybody pits. I think it's going to be right up there, to be fair. So everybody that pitted a few moments ago, that is good to go to the end, all pitted after lap 38. And everybody in front of Shane here, they all pitted at the end of lap 31, lap 30, and in Sam's case, lap 17. So Sam really making those primaries last the distance. But either way, I think Sam is looking at a 3rd place at the moment, and we all know how desperate Sam is to get a podium in PMRL. I'm not going to say anything about it other than that, because I don't want to jinx him, but there you go. So the pits should be open this lap. We'll find out in just a moment though. And there we go. Ah, okay. So I was expecting everybody to go into the pits, but they're all staying out. So Sam Blackwood is the only car that's gonna make a pit stop with 14 laps to go. He will have the freshest tires and the lowest fuel load, but nobody else will go into the pits with him. So Sam's gonna drop all the way to the back, and actually never mind, he's not the only one, but from the leaders he is. So that leaves Daniel Dinsdale out in the lead, and I don't think he would do that if he wasn't sure he was gonna make it to the end. So I think the race for the win is going to be between Dinsdale and Ike. Very interesting. I was really expecting everybody to go into the pits with that. Yes. With Sam, sorry, but they didn't. So 14 laps to go. Everybody for David Soranzo's championship, as he has got the entire left side of the car destroyed. And he's going to try to make it to the pits, but I don't think it's going to work. Car bottoming out on the left side, but he's trying to make it to the pits, but I don't think it's going to work. Because David has the Think Championship, but it's going to take so long to us. So that's a bit weird, but yeah, you can see right there that David did tow to the pits. And let's see how long the next. Will we get another caution? Taylor waits for everybody to get by, and I think everybody is okay. Alex Selman on the move though, around the outside here. Gonna be tricky. Gonna make it work though for the inside of turn 5 now. Turn 6, sorry, and boom, makes it work into P10. As Mark Johnson continues to hold on to P3. Epic British in it. Yes.
The yellow flag is out.
And there we go, another caution is out. 6th caution today. Not sure why we're getting so many cautions, to be fair, but oh well. Let's have a look at Sam Moyle, who's in the wall. Lifts off the throttle here, recognizes the damage on the car, and gets spun around by Alexis Newson, who is down in 13th at the moment. And then Nasrud also had an incident. Connie was in the wall already, out of turn 2 on the restart. And also Adam Rizal has had damage somewhere, difficult to tell where exactly, but goes into the wall again. And car uncontrollable from here. So a lot of late race attrition happening, which leaves us with 14 cars running on the lead lap at the moment. And I know for sure that Sam Moyle is damaged. Currently got 10 viewers tuning in for the final 7 laps when we go back to green, I do believe. The lights on the pace car are out, so welcome along everybody to round 5 of the season. Had 6 cautions, this being the 6th one. We had 5, this being the 6th one I should say. Halfway point of the season, people wanting to make up points and positions, and it's showing in the number of cautions we've had. We've had, I think, about 3 or 4 in the last 10-15 laps or so. It's really been quite the race of attrition recently. But as I said, next week, an off week before we return to Silverstone for round 6 of the season. Then we go to lost the schedule in my head real quick. Sorry. I do know for sure that we have Pocono coming up, Auto Club as well, and Laguna Seca. In what order? I'm trying to find out very quickly right now. So we got Silverstone, Auto Club Speedway, Watkins Glen, Pocono Raceway, and Laguna Seca as the final race of the season. Of course, if you're just tuning in, it's been a chaotic race. There will be a highlight video up eventually of this race where you can catch all the action in about a 7-8 minute video. It's been quite a bit that's happened here tonight. Of course, also check out our sponsors. You can check out Majors Garage, the referral link that we have for PMRL. You can use that on a majorsgarage.com purchase, which will help out the PMRL if you use the code. Of course, you pay the price for the setup, and then a small amount of that money that you spend will go towards the league to help fund everything. Of course, also check out Volpsy iRacing Paints on Instagram at Volpsy iRacing. And I will quickly show 2 or 3 paints here. There you can see not just the Indycar but also other cars.
Green, green, green.
Green flag is back out for the final 7 laps. Hopefully we're gonna stay green this time. We did it the last 3 times, but it seems to be okay at the moment as Andreas Eich is trying to put up the challenge for Daniel Dinsdale, but Daniel has a nice lead into turn 3, 2.5 tenths clear. As we go over 3 wide into turn 3, and there's more contact, I believe, between teammates Taylor Mills and Sam Moyle, who drops to 14th, but everybody else single file, and I think the admins are thinking like, we've had enough cautions, we're gonna go green to the end from here. At least I hope personally. Will Lyon hasn't had the best of races, but right there at the end of the race, he's always there for some reason. He had an incident at Barber, not even one incident by the way, he's had multiple incidents at Barber, came back to win. Had a spin at Nürburgring, came back to win, and so many things have gone wrong here today as well. Just got really unlucky with one of the yellows, but currently on track for a 4th place finish, which might become even a podium if he can get by Mark Johnston. As well as on the push to pass, Mark going defensive to the inside line. Here we go. Battle for the podium. I know Mark Johnson wants this. He's gonna send it in the corner again. Goes late on the brakes.
Yellow flag.
As the inside, he's ahead, and we have another caution on the track. The 7th caution of the race. And we're gonna be running out of broadcast time at this point. And where's this one for? It is for Seth Alexander. For some reason. Goes way too fast into the corner, boom, into the wall, and that is David Sorrento, who's got nowhere to go. Well, I guess we all got what the drivers wanted. There were some complaints on the Discord about the cautions being inconsistent for some reason. They seem pretty consistent to me, to be fair, but seems like we're getting a caution for everything lately, so I think that's what's going on here. I think as a driver as well, you gotta be so frustrated to have 7 cautions on the street course race. Got Sam Blackwood all the way down the... Oh, of course. So, once again, bad luck for Sam Blackwood. Let's see what happened to Sam this time around. The guy just can never catch a break. He always has the speed to be in or near the top 5, but just can never pull it off. Of course, Barber had a phenomenal performance. He was leading the race before his wheel failed. I mean, that's just... I mean, that race right there really summed up his history in PMRL. Just the unluckiest driver ever. I don't know how many races PMRL has ran, but he's never scored a podium in this league. He's run so many other leagues and scored a number of podiums in there and very many good results. But in PMRL he just can't. For some reason, there's just something against him which... even from the outside, it's got to be so frustrating. I know that Sam's really desperate for a good result and a podium in this league, and again, it's not gone his way. But I can't seem to find where it happened to him, so looks like we'll have to get comments post-race to find out. Alright, so we're gonna get a natural green-white checkered in Indycar racing, and I can almost guarantee you this is gonna be the final restart here because we don't have any time to do another caution. So it's gonna be a race to the finish from here, I can almost guarantee you that. 3 laps to fight it out, and if you will Lion, you're probably gonna take home the points because you've got such a huge championship lead over David Soranzo, who's down 2 laps in 14th place. If you're Mark Johnson and Will Lion does have an opportunity, you're gonna fight so hard to hold on to that position. I'm actually cheering on for Mark Johnson right now. I haven't really seen too much of Mark, but to see him at the front is just so good to see because we always see the likes of Andreas Eichen, the SMS drivers like Dinsdale, Lion, Levine, we all see those guys at the front. But Mark Johnston, never really seen him here. At least not in this league. So yeah. Hopefully for him he can hold on. Sun really is starting to go down now though, so the track continues to cool off. And if this race was much longer, we might even have darkness problems, but don't have any of that just yet. And I don't think we will have, with 3 laps to go at the line. So Jesper Ormer started 3rd, drops to 9th, loses 6 spots. And we know Jesper's race pace hasn't always been the greatest. He is still out on the blacks, but maybe with a shorter sprint to the finish, maybe a new fire in him will come alive or something. I hope for him, because I know Jesper can use a good result here in his battle for the points at the end of the season, but just a few more corners to go for the pace car to make its way onto the pits. So here we go for the final 3 laps. The race will be decided in the next 5 minutes, made at 4 minutes. Green flag is back out. Daniel Dinsdale leads us back to the green as the sun sets into turn 1. And so far everybody clean. Don't want to make a comment on that just yet, but Daniel on the push to pass. As we have multiple battles for position as we're going 3 wide into turn 3. As, who is that? Is that Mark Johnson? Yes, Mark Johnson's gone straight on. Loses that 3rd position. And Will Lyons also in that. He loses a few spots, drops to 8th. So Shimon van der Sloot now up in the 3rd position. As right as I say that clips the inside wall, goes around and everybody else behind avoids him. And Alex Selman now into the podium paying positions. Absolute chaos in the last few laps. Alexis Newsom in the pits. Got damage somewhere. Shane Burke is now back into P5. He was 8th coming to the green flag, I believe. So great restart for Shane. Not so much for Will Lyon, the championship leader. Still gonna make up plenty of ground on David Saranto though, but could have been a little bit more to be fair. I think the race for the win is done though. Daniel Dinsdale 2.5 seconds clear. Daniel can basically cruise to the finish. As Alex Salmon goes down the inside of Andreas Eich for P2, so Andreas didn't fight that one too hard, probably realized a lot of things around him were happening, just wanted to secure that podium position. As there's more contact, and that's Will Lyon, Matthew Levine, sorry, and Shane Burke, and I don't know what's happening in these last few laps, but it's unbelievable. Will Lyon up into 5th again then. Taylor Mills up into 4th place right now. I think that's an unexpected result. As Taylor's driving in, I believe it's a Ukrainian-inspired livery, the flag at least. So that leaves us with 9 cars running on the lead lap, and Shane Burke's limping around trying to get his car to the pits, but white flag is out for Daniel Dinsdale. 1 lap to go. So Daniel Dinsdale started from the pole, dropped to the midfield after a bad yellow, and then came back into the race lead with all the attrition happening, moving him up towards the front and also some good passing. So just a few more corners to go for Daniel Dinsdale. It's been a horrendous season up until this point. But if he can all put it together now, he's got 2 seconds over Alex Salmon, who is going to take a very impressive podium finish by the way, and also Taylor Mills. But 2 more corners to go for Daniel Dinsdale, and he is going to go to victory lane for the first time this season. Congratulations to the SMS Racing driver, finally does it this season. Alex Salmon comes across the line to finish P2, and then teammate Taylor Mills finishes P3 with Andreas Eich dropping to 4th. Will Lyon comes home in 5th, and then the rest of the top 10 is Jesper Orman, Sam Moyle, Sheriff van der Sloot, Shane Burke and Sam Blackwood, who finishes a lap down in the 10th position. So with all the yellows, I will not be able to do any post-race interviews, as much as I regret saying that, because I really would have loved to talk to this podium, because this is unbelievable. Taylor Mills, Alex Salmon and Daniel Dinsdale. I don't think anybody expected that going in. So I would like to congratulate all of them. We will have to get some words in on Discord after the race, and we'll catch you guys back up on Twitter. But yeah, I don't know what to say about those last few laps. That was just so chaotic. We can go back and look at a few things before we have to get off here, but let's start with Sharon van der Sloot. Right here, onto the back straightaway, and clips that wall on the inside, bounces off the bumps, and collects another car. Couldn't really tell who it was, but yeah, Sherwin not gonna be happy about that. Shane Burke also had an issue here with Matthew Levine. So close to the gearbox, and then taps him around here into the wall. Both cars out of the race. And then there's Sharon van der Sloot once again on the final lap. Some slight rear wing damage. And he's gonna stop the car on the track. So quite a chaotic end to the Vopsy.com Detroit Grand Prix, but that's gonna wrap it up for us here. We'll run through the race results and then we'll really sign off. So as I said, the podium, Daniel Dinsdale wins in front of Alex Salmon and Taylor Mills, the two teammates. Great job for those two. Andreas Eichen will line round off the top 5 with Jasper Orman, Sam Moyle, Shane Burke, Sharon van der Sloot and Sam Blackwood running off the top 10, with the rest of the finishers being Matthew Levine. Mark Johnston, who was running P3 for a while, just couldn't really pull it off, unfortunately. I was really cheering him on there, but just wasn't meant to be for him. Alexis Newsom 13th, David Saranto, Seb Alexander, Connie Naslund, Alan Rosell, the final finisher. So as I mentioned, unfortunately not enough time to do interviews, so I will be heading off. But next week, of course, as I mentioned also, there will be a break week. So we will not be racing. We will be back in 2 weeks from Silverstone. So thanks everybody for watching, for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed the race, and thanks to all the sponsors as well.